They looked like they were having a lot of fun in the stands.
In the stands, in the dressing room, Catherine visited the team, and those pictures were quite some pictures. She looked happy.
What are you talking about?
She looked happy amongst the winning
team.
That
is such a suggestive.
No, not suggestive. She looked very happy among the sweaty, winning team.
I can't cope.
Oh, sorry.
It's that wartime generation, isn't it? It's the make, do and mend. At a time when the country was in going into war in the 1940s, spending a lot of money on clothing wouldn't have given the right message. But it's still something that they do now. It's Charles has got a jacket, a tweed jacket that he's had for years. Yeah. Same with the Princess Royal.
Oh my God, Princess Anne. Yes. She wears outfits now that are like 40 years old.
Yeah,
they really lead by example with fashion, don't they? Hello and welcome to a new episode of a Right Road podcast with me, Andrea.
And me, Emmy.
This week we're talking royal dress codes.
Yes, we're all about the fashion this week. The royals have been using fashion to express their individualism and style over the decades. And a new exhibition at Kensington Palace, Dress Code, showcases some of the most iconic and stunning royal looks through the generations.
We're set to be joined by our wonderful colleague, Hello's royal correspondent, Danielle Stacey, who has seen the collection firsthand and can share some fascinating insights into the looks.
We're also missing our dear royal editor Emily Nash in the studio today, as she's currently hanging out with Prince William in Estonia, but we'll be hearing from her later on, so stay tuned.
In the meantime, have a think about your favourite royal fashionista as we welcome Danielle to the podcast.
Welcome!
Welcome, Danielle.
Welcome.
We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me back. It's lovely to be back on the podcast.
We're especially excited because you actually visited the Dress Codes exhibition before anyone else.
I did.
You had a private tour of it at Kensington Palace, and Emmy and I are dying to know more.
I got a sneak peek with Emily last week. It was a real treat to be among the first to see the exhibition before it opened to the public. It's open until November. So basically, Dress Codes takes you through the evolution of codes and conventions throughout royal history. There's 15 of 34 items that have never been displayed before, including a rare mourning bodice worn by Queen Victoria that was newly acquired by historic royal palaces, who look after, they're an independent charity, they look after the royal palaces, including Kensington Palace.
Queen Victoria loved a mourning bodice, didn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, she was...
Let me guess the colour.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something while I was there, actually. Well, I learned a lot of things, obviously. But I learned that she, in the Victorian period, the period of mourning was usually like 2 years at the most.
Oh, wow.
But Queen Victoria, after her husband Albert died, was in mourning for the rest of her life, so 40 years.
Wow.
So she only wore black
for
the remainder of her
life.
life.
How old was she? I'm so bad with history, don't shame me. How old was she when her husband died?
So she was 42, so she was quite young.
That is quite young. That's younger than I thought.
Isn't that Kate's current age, 42?
Yes, it is. But it's also quite similar to actually the Queen Mother. She was relatively young when King George VI died. So she spent 40 years in mourning, but typically in Victorian times, 2 years. Yeah, 2 years was the typical time to mourn. Widows would also go into a period of half mourning, so where they could introduce colours such as lavender, grey and white, because one of the items in the exhibition is this beautiful lace floral purple dress once worn by Queen Alexandra. So her eldest son died, Prince Albert Victor. So she would have worn this dress to Royal Ascot in the 1800s.
Wow.
So it's really
while
beautiful.
in half mourning.
Yeah, while in half mourning.
It's so interesting.
Really quickly,
Yeah.
you just said a lot of ages. Are you bothered?
Oh yeah, I'm not bothered.
Okay, so are we starting from Queen Victoria in this exhibition? Does anything go earlier than that? And what period of time do we go up to? Do we go up to the modern day?
Well, yeah, it's items from sort of, I believe, the 1600s up until the present day.
1600s.
Yes. So there's a few ceremonial uniforms included in the exhibition, many of which have not been changed for centuries.
Wow.
Even down to what the yeomen's wear outside the Tower of London. Those uniforms have largely remained unchanged. But the exhibition actually opens with a very, very special dress.
Can we guess?
Yes.
Oh,
What do you reckon?
Well, it has to be worn by Princess Diana.
Yes.
Is it the revenge dress?
No, sadly not. Sadly, the revenge dress is not included in the exhibition. There are 3 pieces worn by Diana, Princess of Wales, in the exhibition, and it opens with her red glittering Bruce Oldfield dress that she wore on a tour of Saudi Arabia in 1986.
Wow.
And that's displayed alongside like a tweed hacking jacket. They don't actually know if she wore the jacket, but it was from Althorp House.
Yeah.
So it's something, it's kind of like representing her sort of pre-royal life,
Yeah.
you know, when she grew up in Northamptonshire.
Yeah.
And her royal life when she's got to be mindful of what she's wearing. It's very much an example of diplomatic dressing. She's in the Middle East, she's got to be modest. The hemline has got to be down to the floor. She's got to wear long sleeves. But it's also it's beautiful up close.
Now, when you see these dresses, what stands out the most? Because sometimes you're like, wow, she was really tall, or wow, these are tiny. Like, how, what stands out?
Well, exactly that, actually, because one of the other items included in the exhibition is this beautiful green velvet tuxedo dress by Catherine Walker, which
is this the third item that you were?
Yes, there's 3 items in the exhibition. There's the Bruce Oldfield red evening gown. Yeah. There's a Jasper Conran red skirt suit, which she wore to the opening of a cruise liner. Then there is this velvet tuxedo dress, which she never actually wore in public. She wore it for a very famous Mario Testino shoot in 1997 to auction off a huge collection of her dresses at Christie's. The auction sold, I think it raised over $3 million for HIV and AIDS and cancer charities. So,
I mean, well, presumably I've already answered my silly question, but it was like, well, how are there even clothes left to display if they had this huge auction, but Diana had a lot of
Yes, exactly. Yes. I believe that, when we asked the curator, Matthew Storr, he said, they had a lot to choose from. But yeah, when you see these items up close, like particularly the velvet tuxedo dress, you can totally appreciate the craftsmanship and just how luxurious the fabric is and how it's sort of molded to her figure. It's she wore it in private. She wore it for private formal events, which is why there's not any pictures of her wearing it publicly. But also, like, she is so tall. You can tell that that's obviously something tall. It's something you can't really tell. When you're looking at a picture of it online, but it's also like little details that you wouldn't be able to see unless you see it close up. So the red Jasper Conran skirt suit actually has little anchor detailing on the buttons because she wore it for a naming of a cruise ship. So it's like things like that it's so worth going to see exhibitions like this, because you can truly appreciate the finer details that you can't see from a picture.
But this, I love this because this has been going on for so many years. The detail of the clothes that they choose for certain events, especially when, there's a tour or there's a state, visit, there's so much thought that goes into what they wear. It isn't just by chance, isn't it? In the color. Yeah. And, you mentioned in the details of the buttons, they think of even the designer they use.
This is all the hidden meanings. Yeah. I love a hidden meaning in a royal outfit.
Do you know what? It's one of my, how I got into sort of royal reporting. In a previous life, I wrote a lot about what the Princess of Wales was wearing, particularly, on those really large tours, like Canada in 2016, Poland and Germany in 2017. There is so much. It's down to, I remember, writing about her, I think it was on the when she was in Germany, like the even details about her earrings and how it's like the national gemstone of Germany, and like sort of the detailing, it might contain like a floral emblem of that country, or the colours of the flag, which we know that Kate still does now.
So much thought goes into this, and now with the kids as well. I know that when the kids go to trooping or when the kids have special outings, they also think about what the kids are wearing, what brands they're incorporating into their looks. It must be so exhausting, but obviously they have help. I know that the Princess of Wales has a wonderful stylist, and they get all the help obviously that they need, but it really so much goes into it, and it's so important. Now, I want you to tell me what was your favourite. Obviously, I know Princess Diana is a highlight, but there was a lot more.
Were the Catherine's outfits there as well?
Not on this occasion.
Okay.
There are two outfits that have never been seen before, worn by Princess Margaret.
Oh, I love Princess Margaret. She's a favourite.
Yes. But like one of my favourite pieces actually, and sort of tying back to what you were talking about, where the Princess of Wales and her children are kind of coordinated, were these two little Liberty print cotton dresses worn by Margaret and Elizabeth when they were kids. And again, it's that they wore them in the 1930s. It's around the dress code of like family unity, because at the time there was obviously the constitutional crisis around the abdication. So, the children dressing the same created this kind of family unity. And I feel like that is still something that they follow now. It is, if they're coordinating, if they're in the similar colour, if they all, complement each other, it does create this sense of family unity. But up close as well, you can see where the dresses have been. Extra paneling has been added at the bottom. So as they've grown, they've added extra seams, or it may have been altered at the back to accommodate them. And I just still, again, it stresses the importance of sustainability for the royals. Something which they still follow now. Yes.
I find that incredible, because they didn't have to do hand-me-downs. Like, really, they didn't. But they really believed in that, and sustainability comes all the way from when, Princess Elizabeth was a child.
It's a wartime generation, isn't it? It's the make, do and mend, at a time when the country was in going into war in the 1940s, to be seen, spending a lot of money on clothing wouldn't have given the right message. But it's still something that they do now. It's Charles has got a jacket, a tweed jacket that he's had for years. Same with the Princess Royal.
Oh my god, Princess Anne.
Yes.
She wears outfits now that are like 40 years old. They really lead by example with fashion, don't they?
Yes, I think so. And I think it's something we've seen a lot more on the Princess of Wales. She might have had paneling removed, or she might have had a bow detail added. It's really hammering home that sustainability message, which
it's what we all should be doing.
Yeah,
I do.
I think we are. Yeah, we are so much more conscious now of our impact on planet, particularly fashion.
Yeah, fast fashion.
I do have a question about this though, which is like, obviously fashion is huge for the royal family, but not they never make a thing of it. It's just there, and it's always been there, that it's very important. So they're presumably not really getting rid of anything, and things are getting reused, and we're seeing things from 20 years ago that Princess Anne's rocking again.
Well, let's not forget Princess Beatrice's wedding dress, for example.
Exactly. Where is all this stuff being stored?
And who has the key?
Is there a Celine Dion shoe factory somewhere
oh my
with a computer that the royals just go, and it's like, I'll crack out the 1930 frock or whatever. Like, where is it?
Well, do you know what I always have in my head that I feel like it's like, do you remember Cher from Clueless in the 90s?
Yeah,
exactly. You've got a catalogue. I would just love that.
Miss Nash.
Well, personally, we don't know where the current royals store their outfits, but the items used in the exhibitions are stored. They're part of the Royal Ceremonial Dress Collection, which is a collection of 10,000 items that have been...
This is what I'm saying. They must have warehouses.
So this is stored at Hampton Court Palace. I have not had the chance yet to go down there, but I've heard it's incredible. Yeah. Could you imagine being the person that has to go through that collection and decide?
I mean, never mind that. Can you imagine being let loose in there? How much
yes.
money do you need for me to just have a day playing dress up in this room?
I can't help but think that, the Princess of Wales is currently going through this. Like, when, you and me are mothers, you're about to be a mummy. When we clear our wardrobes, we kind of just like clear our wardrobes. But when, the princess does it, she has to think what she's keeping.
What's the historical significance?
Exactly. Yeah. What has the significance? That obviously there are things like, the christening gowns, which are already, completely different, and those are sacred. But I know she's doing hand-me-downs because, James Middleton, her brother, has said that he receives a lot of hand-me-downs from both the siblings. So there are things that she parts with, but there are things that she's clearly going to keep. And like, how is she deciding that? And also every outfit, well, not every, but most of her outfits are literally iconic. So which ones, like, who decides? Does she decide? Is it because of the occasion, her first royal engagement, or well, obviously the coronation. I mean, obviously the coronation.
She must still have her like engagement dark
her
blue,
engagement dress must be tucked
dress.
away.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fascinating to know? I mean,
We will know,
interesting.
probably.
It'll be
20
interesting.
years.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see as the children grow older, and maybe that Princess Charlotte ends up inheriting some of those pieces from her mum.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. The time when when Charlotte wears the same outfit or coat that her mum wore 10 years, 15 years ago.
Gosh.
What the day when that, because that does happen with other European
yeah,
royals.
exactly.
We've seen that.
Queen Mary's daughters, who are teenagers now, they're wearing a lot of her, her Prada coats.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely.
Wow.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
I also have a question about Catherine's fashion, especially modern royals, I would say. Is it true, and I don't know if you know this, Danielle, so sorry if I put you on the spot, but is it true that designers will lend their outfits for give the outfits for £1, say, and then they own the outfit for £1.
So you want to know the process of acquiring
I want to know the
all this
process
expensive...
of designers gifting, because they can't give it for free. Is that right?
Yeah, they can't get it for free. But
are they giving it for £1?
Well, we'll never know. Unless we see receipts. Will we see receipts? We'll never know.
We need the receipts.
It is difficult to imagine, because we know the cost of all these outfits. And we know, we always see these articles where they sum up all the outfits during the year. And I think it's very unlikely that they're spending that amount of money a year on clothes. But we'll never know anything about
we
that.
Don't know.
All we know is they can't take freebies. So then, not freebies.
But it's interesting as well. I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, about how the palace briefings have stopped listing Catherine's outfits, designers, which they stopped doing a long time ago, but they did used to do it. But then it's fashion is so important to the message, and you're saying when they go on tours, how they're paying tribute to those countries and things. What do you think the balance is there? How much do you think that fashion is important for us to know about, or do you think it's taking away from their charitable endeavors?
I have quite strong feelings about this as someone that started royal reporting through a fashion lens. I don't think it distracts. I think that if you say, for example, they go on away days to to Wales and to smaller charities that the general public might not know as much about. And I think sometimes that can be a hook into highlighting a charity or a small business.
Yeah.
Especially if it's, a pair of earrings worn, designed by a local designer. I think that's really important. But, there are, including us and so many fashion bloggers who will do that work anyway. Yeah. You can do the detective work yourself. So
I think they've realised that there are so many people identifying these things it's so quickly. God knows how. Yeah, and it's become easier now. It's become so much easier than say 10 years ago. But I do think fashion is really important. It plays, it's like a soft power, especially when they go overseas. As you say, you want to know what designer. Is it a local designer? Is it, a British designer? I mean, you can obviously see the colour of it, but, or down to the jewellery. I do think that fashion does play its part in highlighting a small business or highlighting a charity. And, those charities might not get as much exposure, if we don't have little details like that. It obviously completely depends on the job. Yeah.
Do we think it's true that the members of the royal family have occasionally used their fashion to be passive aggressive?
I would say passive aggressive.
No.
I would say to send a message.
But send like a sassy message.
You know, Ukraine at the time of the war rings a bell. You know, we've spoken about this before. You know, when
that's
the
not
Queen,
a sassy message.
Well, that was like a powerful message without saying anything, which was the color of the flowers. Or you know, when apparently the late Queen wore that hat about the
Brexit hat.
Yeah, the Brexit hat. Which
that's a sassy message.
They've since denied.
Which Angela Kelly said.
Of course, like then they're going to deny it. But you know, they have sent a message. Maybe not a passive aggressive message.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's like fashion holds soft power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, the Princess of Wales has been wearing red a lot.
And now she wears suits. You know, suits gives you, means business.
Yeah.
You know, and exactly. I think when she changed up all her dresses for suits, that, you know, you get a message.
You mean business.
She means business.
That's actually a really good point. But I mean, I've thought of another one. Sorry to go back to the topic. But I mean, Dara mentioned Meghan after our episode last week.
I know which one you're going to mention.
Very divisive. Well, I was going to mention about her choosing to
at
wear
the fashion awards.
No.
Oh.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I thought you were going to mention that gown where it was like, she wore like a one-shouldered gown when she was she was 6 months or 7 months pregnant to the fashion awards, and everyone went crazy over her bearing her arm.
Oh no.
Okay.
What? As in like it's breaking royal protocol?
Yeah, I thought you were going that side.
No, I was going with the documentary where she was saying about how in her last like couple of weeks doing royal duty, she wore lots of bright colours, and that was meant to. be like
I think we can all seriously. I mean, if you've watched her show, she likes beige. She likes neutral colours. I think she didn't wear colours. She didn't wear colours because she doesn't really. I mean, I would rather wear black all the time.
But that's what I'm saying. She wore she says she wore the colours to sort of make a statement, as it was that she was leaving and she was sort of taking her power back, and that's why she went with the colourful outfits. But I guess that's just one instance.
I mean, I didn't get that message at the time. I just thought she looked incredible. Like, one picture that stands out was, I think it was the last engagement where she wore that blue dress.
Yes.
That stunning picture with, I think it's by Hussein.
Yes.
That's the most amazing photo.
That was like the most amazing, perfect timing photo under the umbrella.
A frame in that house.
That night while I was standing outside, it was freezing cold. It was like hammering down with rain.
Yeah.
And you could just see her. In amongst all the camera flashes and umbrellas, you could see her.
Yeah.
And she looked incredible.
Yeah, she looks incredible. That stands
out. Victoria Beckham.
But at the time, I didn't think, she's sending a message. I just think she's always like neutral colours. She looks great in them.
Yeah.
But you know what? She wanted to go off with a bang and do some colouring. But I just think she suits more like neutral colours. Jeans, whites, beige.
I think we all go for our own fashion evolution, don't we?
So true.
It's you think about stuff that you may have worn in your 20s to your late 20s to your 30s, like, even when you become a mum, perhaps, your wardrobe completely changes. I think that was one of the things as well that I got from the fashion exhibition. We all kind of inadvertently follow our own dress codes.
Yeah.
Like we work in an office that's, pretty, we're not expected to wear suits or anything corporate, but I think we all kind of follow our own dress code. Or like if you go to an event, like I've got a wedding in a couple of weeks and I'm stressing about what to wear because, there's this kind of unwritten rule about, don't wear white.
Mm-hmm. That's important.
Yeah, exactly. Do you wear a hat? Do you not wear a hat? It completely depends on where the wedding is, and it depends on the weather.
And the time.
And the time.
Because either you wear long or short, honestly.
Exactly. Dilemma. So
can I ask a really cheeky question? If you could have access to any wardrobe, probably right now, not before. I can't imagine you choosing, Queen Victoria. But if you could have access to any wardrobe right now, whose would you choose?
Oh, the royals only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gosh, that's really hard. Do you know who I absolutely love?
I think I know who you're going to say.
Queen Mary.
Oh.
Did that surprise you?
Is that who you're going to say?
No, I actually was just thinking British, and I know you love dresses, and I thought you were going to choose Sophie.
Oh, interesting.
You know what?
Sophie dresses really well. I know she's older. I'm not saying,
No, it's the fit and flare, A-line silhouette.
Yeah.
Florals.
There's a little bit of Sophie Wessex in you, I think, Danielle. Like,
she's not Sophie Wessex anymore, though. She's the Duchess of Edinburgh.
They share a classy energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think as well, It's, you know what suits your your body shape, don't you? So it's always been like an A-line dress for me. I always used to in my early 20s feel like I channeled, like, you remember Jessica Day on New Girl, like that kind of like fit and flare, a little cardigan,
rocking a lot of polka dots.
Yeah, exactly, which I inadvertently got for the wedding in a couple of weeks.
To be fair, I do think everyone went through a Jessica Day phase.
Yes.
To be fair, if you're a millennial.
Yes.
Now, Emmy, which royal mum-to-be wardrobe would you rate?
Catherine. The Princess of Wales. It's got to be
Seraphine
right?
girly.
So Seraphine girly through and through. No, she's she looked absolutely stunning through her 3 pregnancies. Also, like especially post pregnancy, coming out of the hospital with the little baby, every outfit on point.
Yeah, all Jenny Packham as well.
Yeah.
There we go, Jenny. If you're listening,
Yes,
very interesting.
She needs a JB dress from when she gives birth.
I'm not quite coming out of the Lindo ring, but
now, if I had to choose one, I'm not gonna lie. I think Meghan. I'm a jeans girl, and she wears a lot of jeans and she rocks them very nicely with cardigans. So I think I would go for Meghan. But if it had to be someone that's like currently working royal, I might choose Letizia, because she does mix up like high street brands a lot. Like, and I like.
They're a stylish couple, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
King
stylish.
Felipe's suits. The tailoring
in King Felipe's suit.
I've just had a thought. Can you imagine Queen Rania's wardrobe?
Actually, Queen Rania, we forgot
yes.
her. Oh my God, Queen Rania, she does really high-end fashion.
Yeah.
Like, she's something else.
Let me get my hands on that.
She never ever wears, I mean, she might have, but I really think she rarely ever wears high street.
No high loafer, Rania.
No, I don't
just
think,
high.
No, she does not rock up in Zara.
Which is what I loved, actually, Meghan talking about in the series, actually, when she said about high-low, she had, was it Zara trousers?
Yeah.
But then her cardigan was like $2,000.
But
like,
to be fair, a high-waisted cream Zara trouser is amazing. They're my go-to fashion. And I was like, I can relate. This is very relatable. Yeah, well done. Well, apart from it's just a $2,000 jumper where she lost me.
I do want to know what our listeners think, so please leave a comment whose fashion you love the most.
Who have we not thought of?
Like who would you like to wear from, say, like the like yesteryear? Like, is there anyone that you think like from like the
Anne Boleyn?
No, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh.
Well, like kind of like going back to the Queen Mother's period. I feel like her like kind of flapper style wedding dress.
Oh my God, yes. Also, a young Princess Anne. That was very chic.
Yes.
That was very, the 60s vibes and things. Like,
she was stunning, wasn't
love
she?
that. Well, Danielle, I honestly think we could talk about the exhibition all day, but we don't need to, because you and Emily went along and you have footage for us if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening to the podcast, you can listen to it. So let's check it out, shall we?
Hi everyone, it's Emily.
And Danielle.
And we're at Kensington Palace to give you a sneak peek behind the scenes at a very special new exhibition.
Come with us.
Matthew, thank you so much for showing us around today. Can you tell the viewers what it is we're looking at?
This is the Dress Codes exhibition at Kensington Palace, where we celebrate the best of the royal ceremonial dress collection, decoding it, if you like, looking at clothing worn at the royal court by famous members of the royal family, and also working with young people aged 14 to 17 to see what's interesting to them as they create their own responses to the pieces in the exhibition.
Now, the exhibition starts and opens with an iconic piece of Diana's wardrobe and a Bruce Oldfield dress, and it ends with this iconic Catherine Walker velvet tuxedo dress. When it came to picking out the pieces, how did you choose?
That's very difficult indeed when you have so many wonderful pieces to choose from. We knew we wanted to represent Diana, Princess of Wales, in her former home at Kensington Palace. And then I wanted to show the range of clothes she wore as a member of the royal family. So this red suit here is by Jasper Conran. So this shows a kind of clothing she'd have worn to a royal duty during the day. So this she wore to the launch of a cruise liner named in her honour, the Royal Princess, and it's got little anchors on the buttons to suit that nautical theme. Bright red, she'd have stood out in the crowd. That Bruce Oldfield at the beginning was worn to an official overseas visit to Saudi Arabia, and those are one of the most important things that a royal family do, and they have to get their clothing absolutely right for those. And then this one was worn for formal dinners in the evening, more private with family. So it shows another aspect of her wardrobe. And her designers do talk about how we know her for those show-stopping gowns, dignified showstoppers, Catherine Walker called them, that she wore to official events. She went even more bold and creative for wardrobes in private.
Now, do you have a particular favourite? Because there's so much to see here. I don't know how you could possibly pick out, because you probably feel a lot of perfections for different pieces. Is that fair to say?
That is a very difficult question to ask a curator. And one of the great things is I can put some of my favourites in the exhibition. So I'd say this is my favourite of our wonderful dresses worn by Diana, Princess of Wales. And I also love the clothing of Queen Victoria. Obviously, she was born here at Kensington Palace in 1819. So it's lovely to show her clothing in her former home. And there's one very rare bodice we're showing, which dates to about the 1870s, and almost nothing of her clothing survives from that era. So it gives us a real insight into what she was wearing in that first devastating decade after Prince Albert's death.
It's a very immersive exhibition. And what do you want visitors to take away from when they're walking through each room?
I'd love them to really see how incredible the Royal Ceremonial Dress collection is. And maybe I'd like people to look at their own wardrobes. We called it dress codes because while clothing worn at the royal court and by members of the royal family might seem very distant, what's it got to do with us? We all get dressed every single day, and we think about what messages we want to send to the world through our clothes. And the royal family and people coming to court do exactly the same thing. We all dress up for special occasions. And I think we can all take inspiration, perhaps, from some of the pieces on display. And that's actually what our young producers did as well. So these incredible teenagers, they took inspiration from the histories and the stories and the designs of these beautiful pieces. And they created their own fashion. They brought all their creativity to that. So the final room of the Dress Codes exhibition showcases their creativity. So I'd like to think that pieces that seem like they belong to the past actually belong absolutely today and present a vision for the future as well. One
of the surprising aspects of it for me was, again, going back to Queen Victoria, the secret pockets in the bodice. What does that tell us about her?
I love those pockets because I think it shows that Victoria had a practicality to her as well. So her clothing from that period of mourning, which is half her life, 40 years, speaks to her grief, her devastation, the way she wanted to show the world that she was a widow now. But it's regal as well. It's beautifully made. And those photos of her show her looking powerful. But yes, you're right. There's little pockets here, sometimes a little pocket in the bodice, sometimes a big old patch pocket she puts on the front of her skirts. I don't know what she kept in them, but she definitely could have kept what she needed about her. And I think that shows a lot about who she was as a person.
Finally, how are dress codes relevant to today's royal family and to society in general?
A lot of royal dress codes actually don't change over time. So if you look at ceremonial clothing, the whole point is that it stays the same from generation to generation. So if you look at a great royal event like a coronation or the state opening of Parliament, the liveries being worn and sometimes the clothing worn by the king have designs that date back centuries. And so that continuity is really important and always relevant to British life. But again, I think you get themes in this exhibition of reuse, re-wearing. Take, for instance, the Duke of Windsor. There's a beautiful suit in this exhibition, which he inherited from his father, King George V. So it was worn by two British kings. And it shows how if you find a great piece, whether you inherit it, find it in a vintage shop, find it new, you can make it your own and make it last forever. And in an era where we're always talking about sustainable fashion, perhaps that royal example shows you how to do it.
That was a real treat, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Thank you very much for joining us at the Dress Codes exhibition at Kensington Palace.
It's open from March the 13th until November the 30th, so there's plenty of time to grab a ticket and come and have a look.
Oh, Danielle, I'm going to have to go. It does sound really, really good.
It's on until the 30th of November.
Right, noted. I'll take Bambino.
Oh, yes! Exciting.
So Emily's not here with us right now, but she will be at the end of this episode. Definitely stay tuned. But we want to do a really quick recap of the last week. A lot has happened, and I thought we could start with the Princess of Wales because Catherine was out for 3 different times.
Yeah, it's been a busy one, hasn't it?
It's been a busy one, yeah. It doesn't look busy because she kind of spaces them out quite a bit, but
That's a lot for her, though, considering she wasn't doing anything at the start of or just taking really picking and choosing.
Well, the princess is still making a gradual return to royal duties. We understand. Obviously, she confirmed in January that she's in remission. But we saw her and the Prince of Wales at the Commonwealth Day service.
Stunning in red.
Yes.
Family reunion. Lots of curtsies, lots of kisses. And then we saw her out again for St. Patrick's Day. Actually, no, before that, sorry. She did go to the rugby.
Yeah, there's a bit of friendly rivalry. Sadly for William, see, England were victorious on that.
Of course they were.
But they looked like they were having a lot of fun in the stands.
Well, in the dressing room, Catherine visited the team, and those pictures were quite some pictures. She looked happy.
What are you talking about?
She looked happy amongst the winning team.
That is such a suggestive.
No, not suggestive. She looked very happy among the sweaty, winning team.
I can't cope.
Oh, sorry. Okay, a few days later, obviously, she was out again for St. Patrick's Day. And again, this goes, dress codes. She wore green.
Yeah, Alexander McQueen. She was loaned the Cartier gold shamrock brooch because it actually, it doesn't actually belong to Catherine. It's on loan to her from the Irish Guards. Oh, so it was gorgeous. It was her first time back at the parade since 2023, and the first time doing taking the salute solo because obviously she's now Colonel of the Irish Guards.
Wow. And kudos to her because she had to have a sip of Guinness. A drink that I particularly find.
You're not a fan.
Absolutely.
Did she manage to split the G?
And she did buy a round of she did pay for a round, didn't she?
Yeah,
she
put
everyone.
some money behind the bar.
Wow, I hope she's good until payday.
Yeah, she'll be fine. She'll survive.
Fingers crossed.
Now, she was missing from Cheltenham, but that was a big thing in the calendar last week. It was 4 days of races. Obviously, the Tyndalls were there, out in full force.
You know who else was there? It was you.
Yes, I was.
Did you have a good time? Did you see the royals?
You know what? It's my second year going, and I love it. I understand why, the royals love it too. Well, I have mixed feelings, I'm not going to lie.
Guess my invites were lost in the post.
Did you have a flutter, Andrea?
I did enjoy it. And guess who I saw? My favourite royal. Princess Anne.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say
she was handing out the gold cup, and honestly, she does it with such grace. I just loved her. She was on top form, as always, last year.
Classy lady.
I have to say that last year I was on the royal box with her. Yes, I was.
What happened? Why have you been demoted?
I was a bit demoted this year, but I was in another box. But it was great, and it's I love it. The Tyndalls are always happy. They're always surrounded by the closest friends. They also were, supported by Princess Eugenie and her husband. So it's a real family affair, wasn't it?
It is, and it's another chance for us to look at some, race day fashion. Zara is, of course, a director at the race course. And she does
a good job promoting it.
I love
she
Zara.
Really does.
I haven't thought about Zara in ages. How's she doing?
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she had a great time at the races.
Ever. Again, dress codes. She is really championing British designers always. She really has upped her game in the last years, hasn't she?
She looks stunning, didn't she? She, it was an array of outfits. Really tailored coats, some tweed, which is kind of like the unspoken dress code of Cheltenham. There isn't a dress code for Cheltenham. It's not as strict as Royal Ascot. They kind of, they say, dress for yourself.
Yeah. Well, dress for the weather because UK,
exactly.
we were actually lucky it wasn't rainy this year.
Yeah, there's your hills are no good at that race course. No. It's wet, it's windy, you've got, you go with a really lovely tailored coat, maybe in a bright colour like the Queen Mother used to, and boots, definitely, if you're, especially, the Princess Royal and Zara Tyndall are all over the race course, aren't they? So yeah, she looked lovely. There was a really lovely olive green Hobbs coat. And she also had some pretty A-list guests. Henry Cavill was there on Friday.
Wow.
He flew in.
Well, speaking about all of these gorgeous royal fashions, does that lead us to have a chat about our latest
Royal Special.
royal special? Is that a good segue?
We mentioned it last week. And actually, Danielle, you wrote some amazing pieces in our special issue.
I had so much fun working on that. It was a real treat. Just to dive into sort of like standout fashion moments, stately moments, iconic moments. I included Catherine's, gold Jenny Packham gown that she wore at the Bond premiere, like that knockout. Yeah,
Stunning.
exactly.
Now, that special issue, a lot of love and work went into it. It is available in America. It's available in the UK. We will be putting links in the description so you can order your issue. Do not miss out because it is absolutely stunning.
It's a special one for sure. Yeah.
Now, before we end, we have to mention the King and the Queen. And they've got a very special trip coming up.
They are off to Italy.
Jealous.
In April. Yeah. From the 7th to the 10th of April. We understand that they will be meeting Pope Francis at the Vatican.
This is the rescheduled trip to Vatican City.
It's not been rescheduled, but I think there were understandably concerns that they wouldn't be able to meet the Pope amid his health. But as far as we're aware, Buckingham Palace have confirmed that this meeting will go ahead. But the trip also coincides with a very, very special milestone for the couple, their 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, in Italy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's
Congrats
amore.
to them. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like we could honestly talk about this all day. I love chatting about the royal fashion, and this exhibition sounds so good. Incredible. I'm definitely going to check it
Summer
out
plans.
for sure. Oh, summer plan. There you go. However, Emily is in Estonia rubbing shoulders with Prince William. So we're going to be catching up with her. So yeah, stay tuned whilst we talk to Em about her experiences in Estonia.
I can't wait. Hello, Emily.
Hi, Em.
Hi. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
In the studio.
Well, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I had a better offer.
Yes, it sounds like it. Tell us all about it. Don't be offended, Emmy.
Tell us all about it as I pull the knife out of my heart.
Oh, I am in Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, and Prince William is going to be arriving in the next couple of hours. Now, this is the first time he's been here. It's a really important visit for him. He's here as Colonel-in-Chief of the Mercian Regiment. They're about to take over as part of the British forces here who are helping to defend NATO's eastern flank. Now, that all sounds a bit complicated, but essentially Estonia has been a very long-standing ally of the UK, and we have a big military deployment. In fact, our biggest overseas operational deployment is here at the moment, and it's come at a really interesting moment in global politics. Now, we've talked a lot about this, haven't we, in the last few weeks? Yeah. This is a huge moment for William. It's been planned for months, but it is now happening at a time when Estonians in particular are really anxious about what might lie ahead for them in terms of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, but also in case there is a ceasefire. Lots of them believe that if there is a ceasefire, Russia will be able to rearm quite quickly and then could even turn their sights on Estonia. They obviously share a border. I'm about 200 kilometers away from the Russian border at the moment. But it's interesting to get a sense of the mood here. People have a history of being occupied by the Russians, by the Nazis. They don't want it happening again.
Wow. It sounds like quite an intense trip. I do, it sounds very serious. And, obviously it's different to any other royal tour where they do more light-hearted moments. What can we expect from the day? What kind of events will he be doing?
Well, look, you're right to say there are going to be some serious issues covered, but we are going to have some lighter moments. I think by the time you are listening to this or watching this, we'll have seen some fantastic photographs of the prince probably receiving a bit of a rock star welcome in Tallinn. By all accounts, Estonians are crazy about the British royal family. They're very, very interested in them. They follow them closely. And there's kind of a real affection for the British because Brits were involved in their move to independence back in the beginning of the last century. And they have a kind of a real sort of admiration for the royal family. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's received. He's also going to be trying out some basketball drills at a Ukrainian school. He's going to be getting down and dirty in a military trench, doing some training exercises.
Wow.
He's going to be arriving in a tank, driving an artillery vehicle. It's going to be a bit of an all-action trip for him. So while there are very serious issues underlying it, I think there's going to be a lot to enjoy as well.
What's the atmosphere like there, Emily? Like, is it like quite excited, or is it, obviously you're saying it's such a sort of serious moment in politics, and is are you feeling that a little bit? Like, what's the vibe?
Well, look, we haven't been in the country for very long, so it's quite hard to get a full sense. But from the people that I've been speaking to, there's a real excitement about this visit. People feel really pleased that William's coming. And I think, I was talking to somebody who's worked behind the scenes on this, and they were saying that while people are really delighted that he's coming now, they can't believe that this has actually been in the planning for 6 months. So this was always going to happen. William's here to oversee the handover between the Royal Dragoon Guards and then his own regiment, the Mercians. So they're going to be here for about 6 months. So this is a military moment for him, but obviously now in the wider context of everything else that's going on in the world, it has greater significance. And I think Estonians, feel reassured, to know that there is this continued support from the UK and that we have this commitment to helping protect them. But then also there's the excitement about having a member of the royal family. And they've had royal family members visit, quite recently. They had the Princess Royal last year. Prince Edward's visited twice. He was here as recently as January. But I think having the future king come to Estonia, and it's not a big country, it's 1.3 million people. It's quite a big moment for them.
Wow, yeah, I
I'm
didn't realize
excited.
1.3 million. That's not massive, is it, at all?
Now, I always want to know what goes on behind the scenes. And I'm sure our listeners and, those watching on YouTube also want to know, like, how was it getting there? You arrived yesterday. What's the process like? What did you do last night? Who did you hang out with? Did you just go straight to bed? Are you ready? Had a good sleep? Are you ready to take on the day?
Yeah, so many questions, Andrea. I don't even know where to start. Look, you don't need to know about the glamour that goes on behind the scenes in terms of the traveling. It's it's actually quite a short flight from London. It's about 2.5 hours. It actually took me longer to get to the airport in the UK.
It always does.
And it did to fly. And once you get here, it's very quick. Look, Tallinn, from what I've seen so far, is beautiful. There's a fantastic medieval city in the center of it. It looks kind of a little bit fairy tale-ish. There are like turrets and really beautiful buildings. And then the rest of it feels very modern, and it's kind of a real mixture of sort of your typical Eastern European, but also Scandinavian country. I can tell you one thing I saw last night, which we loved. On the way back to the hotel, a kind of droid, like you see in Star Wars, scuttling along the pavement. And I asked the cab driver what it was, and he's like, it's food delivery, it's takeaway. In Estonia, if you want a takeaway, a robot will deliver it to you. It was
my God.
a country that is very modern. It's very focused on tech. And clean technology, clean energy and stuff. So I think William's going to be really fascinated by that in particular. And one part of his visit is about how people rely on their own electricity, how they produce it. Not the most sexy, perhaps, of conversations, but one we know he'll be very invested in. So, I would like to stay here for longer. It's going to be a really busy 2 days, but I'd like to come back.
Well, it sounds like William's going to be sort of action man for the time that you're there. He's doing a lot of that sort of stuff. Do you think we're going to get any little anecdotes, little nuggets of information about?
Last time we got that amazing, chat where he talked about his brutal year.
Yeah. Look, I think this is going to be very focused on supporting his regiment. And, he's going to meet the president, Alacaris, as well. He's going to, be doing all the typical things that you'd see on an overseas trip. I think it's slightly different to Earthshots because this is a visit to the country rather than with his own project, if you like. So we have seen him speak at the last 2 Earthshot Prize Awards in Singapore and in Cape Town. We're not expecting anything like that on this trip, but it's going to be really fascinating to see what he does say and what he does, how he reacts to the welcome he's going to get here.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're very excited. We look forward to seeing all those photos, all those moments, exciting moments that you mentioned before, being captured by all your mates who I know are also there, your royal snappers. Is it exciting being reunited with, I don't know how you call them. Do you call them the gang? What do you call them?
I guess the pack. It's
The pack.
yeah, look, it's nice, and obviously
Royal
these are
pack.
people.
I love that.
Yeah, they're people I've travelled with sort of all over the world, so we know each other quite well. And it's good fun. We had a lovely meal last night. The work starts now, so it will get a bit more. But it's as these trips go, it's not the most grueling. We're not flying between cities and in a different hotel every night. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And just a hat tip for anyone who enjoys seeing the Prince of Wales in fatigues and a beret, mentioning no editors of hello. This could be one to watch.
Well, there you go, Emily. We know you have a really busy day ahead and we can't wait to have you back in the studio so you can tell us all about it.
Yeah, I can't wait to catch up with you, Em.
Great
Have
to
fun.
see you both. See you soon.
Work hard.
Enjoy.
Bye.
And that's everything from us today. Thanks so much to Danielle, Emily, and to you two for joining us. We'll be back soon.
In the meantime, get more from Hello with our entertainment podcast, The Daily Lowdown, available on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. Bye.